This is Fam Electric Ghost, and we're live on the air for the first time with Slender Dan. You're an avant-garde pop duo, and you guys are based in Nashville, Tennessee, which is a music town. That's pretty cool. So, welcome to the Fam Electric Ghost podcast. How you doing tonight?
Good. Yeah. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
It was always fun to talk to musicians. I would tell people, like back in 2016 when we started a podcast, we started talking to emerging independent artists. That was our primary thing, is to talk to people who were emerging independent artists, because we felt that they needed kind of like a behind the music treatment, and that kind of respect, and people to know who they are, and really dive into their stories. So I'm glad tonight that we're talking to another musical act. That's kind of where my heart is, even though I've been talking to other types of people lately. But it's always fun to go back to my roots.
Nice. Very cool. Yeah.
So you guys, like, I always ask everybody when I start, like, what motivates you and why do you do what you do?
I have fun doing it.
Yeah, I don't know what else I would do for the time. It's like a it's just always going to happen, I think. Yeah, I don't know.
You just got that creative bug.
Yeah, you got to do something with.
If I don't play for a while and then I go to a show, I get so jealous of the people on stage. I'm just like, I just want to play music again.
Also, anything but experiencing my own thoughts is joke.
But it's always interesting when I talk to people, because remember when I started, I'm 56, I'm 17. I always with people, I think we were always like trying to cover Zeppelin, trying to cover the Beatles, trying to cover Funkadelic. Like, we always started as a cover band, but then I actually was with my brothers and the guys in our band, and we said, like, I want to write songs, because I'm watching like MTV, and I'm seeing like all these bands I've never seen before, and we're like, why can't we do that? Why can't we write our own stuff? So I was wondering, like, how did you get that bug to like want to write your own music and not just want to play other people's music?
I have both bugs equally. I'll say that.
Yeah, there's something really fun about playing along to some of your favorite songs too. There's or cover band stuff. I did a cover band in Boston. I loved it.
Yeah.
You played in Seattle.
Yeah, I think growing up, obviously I had a lot of idols that were musicians, but then my older sister was a musician, and she was 10 years older than me, and seeing her do it let me know I could too. Mm-hmm. So I would say that really helped me kind of break that barrier of, oh, I can write, I can get on stage too. It was cool to watch her.
Yeah. Well, when I first got a drum set, my neighbor just got a guitar, so we immediately just started messing around, which starts off trying to play songs that we like, but quickly turns into trying to write your own stuff, and that's my favorite is songwriting stuff.
That's interesting. I think it's always like everybody's story is different, but what did you have? I know your influences, but in terms of your influences and your ideas that you want to be like avant-garde pop, because a lot of people today, they're like, that's not their natural choice to go into that. That's kind of like, it seemed like in the 80s, or like when I was a young kid, there was a lot of people doing things I'd never seen before. If you go back, like I don't know, if I get into like the idea of like New Order and Joy Division and like REMs, I was seeing stuff like I hadn't really seen that type of thing before. Talking Heads. So I was just wondering, like, what made you want to go in that direction?
I don't know. Those are the artists that I'm attracted to personally too. Is I mean, I love mainstream pop stuff as well, but I like to see it as a bullseye where the center is mainstream cookie cutter, the just repetitive, perfect, and then the outer ring of the bullseye is some outside jazz stuff, stuff that atonal stuff. But right in between there's a sweet spot where it's new and creative enough, but still catchy and accessible. And trying to hit both of those buttons at the same time is a fun challenge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you kind of get that power pop, like if you can pull a little Badfinger but not be the Beatles,
Yeah.
You can kind of be like Alex Chilton and Big Star. I was always kind of
Love
drawn
Big
to
Star.
that. Like, yeah, it's like Big Star kind of inspired, like, REM,
Yeah.
inspired like a lot of pop bands will go and name check, Alex Chilton all the time. Like Paul Westerberg was always name checking Alex Chilton, but he was trying to be like the Beatles. He just wasn't successful,
Yeah.
but it really wasn't. It was something else. By the time you got the third, Big Star third, it's like that's not that's not even anywhere near what the Beatles were doing.
Well, that is a fun challenge to try to write something that sounds exactly like an artist or another song that already exists, because you'll never do it. It'll be your tinge or your it'll sound like you still. I don't know.
Yeah, I think a lot of our songs start that way, is trying to emulate this,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
we just can't help but
Yeah.
sound like us.
It'll sound
I think.
Well, you have your influences, like, you can have, yeah, like I get inspired like by P-Funk, but I don't, sound like P-Funk. But like if you have a hero, like Curtis Mayfield or somebody, it's like, oh yeah, I want to be in that zone, but I'm not gonna be Curtis because nobody's Curtis.
Yeah.
But
Right.
but like once you have the people that you kind of, it's in your subconscious, it's like it's in your DNA. You listen to that stuff, it kind of comes out, but it's your take on it.
Mhm.
And I think
Yeah.
that's what's really cool is when, as long as if you're not sampling and not taking note for note, it's your interpretation as a musician,
Yeah.
how you feel, right? And then we have all these tools today where people I can actually take the exact thing. And
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
sampling and stuff.
yeah, I mean, it can be, you can use it as a tool, and I'm not against it. I mean, I love listening to De La Soul or even Public Enemy, and the levels of what you can do in that genre. There's a lot of cool stuff you can do, and you can be lazy or you can be innovative, and so it depends on where your head's at.
It breathes new life into those older projects too. It's someone samples a song, not only will the new song be famous, but it'll give a resurgence to the original
The
as
original
well.
clip,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Well, it's you can take more than just the like the audio from a song too. You can take the song form. This is something we'll do. We're like, oh, we like how this artist didn't do a second pre-chorus in this song, or or how they go
Yeah.
from one part to another. We can take that, and it's unrecognizable from the original, but the idea is
Still comes from
yeah.
yeah, because it's your interpretation. I always tell people, like, Stevie Ray Vaughan covered Voodoo Child, but he has a Texas blues version of it
Right.
versus Hendrix's cosmic original. Right?
Yeah.
His is very cosmic, very loose. Stevie is really tight. He's like, his group is a lot tighter. It's a Texas blues. It's like it's an Albert King kind of version of Voodoo Child, not the cosmic Voodoo Child, but they both can stand in the same place.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's great. Funny, this is kind of related, but we met in Seattle. I'm from Boston, she's from LA, but we met in Seattle, and we used to go to Hendrix's has a like a memorial out there.
Oh yeah.
It was there was some restaurants we liked in the area, so we just pop by sometimes. But it's pretty powerful to be in that space. People will leave pics and things around. It's
Yeah,
cool.
I think his
Seattle,
father,
you should check it out. Yeah.
his father set that up because he wanted him to get more, I think, respect.
Yeah.
But at some points they wasn't getting the respect he deserved. But in terms of like your projects that you're working on, I know you guys have done a lot of videos, like 15 videos. From what
Oh,
I
a lot.
understand. Yeah, and maybe even more than that. But you're working on, you have a new EP coming out, and so maybe you want to talk about your sound and you're in the band, and like Slender Dan. What's the name? It's kind of like I know like the story of Steely Dan, and they got Slender Dan. It's like what's your story?
We were trying to be a Steely Dan cover band originally, and then it just didn't work out.
Didn't have the chops.
No, the name is a Slender Man pun and was going to be the name of a song originally. And we just liked it, so we chose that. We do have a new EP coming out. I would say sonically, how do you think it's different than our past music?
It's less soft synths and things like that. It's more sample based, and it's more of like a trip like more backbeat influence.
Oh,
We
okay.
we typically, I personally have an aversion to backbeats. I like more like Latin or West African rhythms and
Oh,
things
yeah.
things that are just
Like more world music type of thing.
yeah, like different clave patterns, things like that. It's we use a lot of tricios and it just those kinds of rhythms versus like always having a 2 and 4 kind
Oh,
of
yeah.
thing. So
It can get boring.
these 3 songs that are coming out are well, one of them's already out, but they it's more backbeat heavy, I guess.
Yeah.
So that's different than what we normally do.
We also have real drums.
Yeah.
On one of the songs that's not quite out yet. That'll be a first for Slender Dan.
Okay, you were using like drum programming, like drum machines, things like that.
Yeah, typically drum machines and stuff, but this is
He is a drummer. He just never gets to do it on Slender Dan records.
Yeah. It's kind of hard if you're playing something else and you put the beat down, then you got to use something. It's like my dilemma. I'm a one-person band, so I'm using 808s and 707s or DFAMs or whatever. I do a lot of stuff like that, but
Nice.
when I get a chance to play with a real drummer, it's fantastic because I love playing with real drummers. But when if I have my own project, like I don't have the drummer, so I got to do it myself.
Yeah.
Totally.
If you ever need real drums on something, let me know.
Yeah,
it's
cool.
so easy to get stuck in that world of like making everything on a synth or on the computer. Sometimes we just grab a guitar and drums and are like, let's just play again.
Let's play again.
Yeah.
It's like that's the thing is like when you get into like kind of synth or electronic music, and that's why I kind of made the decision to use a lot of analog. So I use a lot of Moogs, a lot of modular stuff, and I kind of record it directly to multi-track, and it's kind of like an aversion to the DAW, where I kind of want to do it like I was doing it back in the 70s, like on a Tascam or like a Fostex. And it's something about that kind of Nebraska like recording. Like you sit there and you kind of got to live with like the the imperfections, like the happy accidents. I wonder, like in terms of like what you can do today because of the DAWs, and because you don't have to do it on a multi-track, you don't necessarily have to do it on the old school. Do you have preferences like in terms of like the tech, what you like to do with the music tech that has exists today with the DAWs?
I like you have an answer?
Patrick does all the production, so
well, I like some of the happy accidents that will occur with the computer. Like I've been really leaning into certain artifacts that some plugins will add, or if you stretch something out further than it should be stretched, or you get some weird artifacts in there, these little glitchy things, and we've been really leaning into that sound. And it's I feel like it's the new vinyl noise.
Mm-hmm.
It's
well, yeah, you can push it. Like some people can stay within the constraints, or you could actually treat it like a George Martin experiment. Let's use the studio and actually use it as an instrument.
Yeah. But it allows us to do stuff that we wouldn't think of if we were just playing with our instruments in a room, like the way we can layer Heather's vocals. It's something that we wouldn't do if it was just a monophonic voice in a room with a PA. We come up with more creative I think harmonies and choir parts because we can just drag the vocal to whatever pitch and format we want and see what sounds weird, see what sounds cool, and just experiment without having to, let's try it from the top again, and now we're getting tired as the day goes on instead of me just moving a mouse,
Or let me practice it, or that's slightly too high for me, or whatever. We can.
Well, I think what's interesting is you can treat like the whole recording process as a painting. And I know there's like Hendrix and Vexian term called sound painting, and George Martin was into it. It's like he's like, oh, when I first, when the Beatles were first recording, is kind of what they could play in Hamburg. It's kind of like, what you can play as 4 people. And then when you get the Rubber Soul and Sgt. Pepper's, they start using the studio because they were like Peter Sellers had been using on his comedy records the studio to do all these effects. He was doing like tape loops and all kinds of dynamic effects and overdubs. And then they said, well, why don't we use these like kind of Peter Sellers comedy record techniques to actually do a record for a rock band?
Yeah.
And then you have things that you wouldn't be able to do live that you can do in the studio, and it kind of gave the birth to that kind of experimentation that you see in the 70s with Pink Floyd and all these other bands that start doing that. That start, and the DAW just gives that to regular people. You don't have to be at Abbey Road to do that.
Yeah. You start asking yourself, what can we do more than with the drum set? We kind of know what sounds it can make, and what it with just your voice, we know your range, we know the volume. It's the parameters are kind of set, but on a computer you can start to push them in whatever direction you want.
I really wonder what's next. Like, what sounds can't we make at this point? I'm so excited for the next 20, 30 years of music technology, just based on how far we've come.
Yeah, it's interesting because I kind of live in a modular world of like what I can do with my sound waves from my sense, building things from Euro racks. And just the experimentation, you get lost in the Euro rack with the CVs. You get lost with like the physical moving things around. Now I know you can virtually do that, and people do that. But the idea, like when I can just unplug all my wires and start all over again, because I can't really save the patch. I just kind of start from scratch and say, oh, what can I do to kind of break the sound?
Yeah. That's great.
I love that world. I can't even begin to get started in it. My bank account won't allow it, but I love those modular synths.
Are you familiar with Analog Craftsman from Boston?
Yeah.
He was an old professor. He was one of my professors in college.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm kind of into that modular mode mindset, CP3 mixers and, just like taking things and just like inverting and, using LFOs to trigger oscillators and all these tricks. Like, it was kind of known in the 70s, and now it's all coming back.
Yeah.
The stuff that Keith Emerson and the Wakeman were doing, everybody kind of can do that now in their DAWs. To a certain extent, if they get into it. But it just seems interesting. Like in Nashville, like a lot of people probably just think, they don't know. They wouldn't think a band like you would be in Nashville. They think you'd be in some other place. But Nashville is a scene that's really diverse, right?
Totally.
All over the place,
There's musicians of all types here. I really view Nashville as kind of a touring hub for every genre, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the best musicians in the world live here, New York and LA and all that. But there's everything. There's a pretty strong kind of underground electronic scene as well.
Yeah, so you found a really good, like, I mean, I know I've talked to bands in that from your area, and it seems like it's always like, wow, like that's it's not just country music.
Yeah.
I mean, it's small, but it's mighty. People really care, and people are always making community events around electronic music and things like that. So it's cool to see.
Everyone's very supportive.
Do you find that are you kind of in that electronic scene, or is it the other genres or the other, like, are they willing to embrace your type of music in other venues in Nashville, or are you kind of like in a niche?
I think they're willing to embrace it. I mean, we actually don't play live, but we support a lot of our friends that do. And I mean, I can think of one local band, Pressure Heaven, that they are kind of a heavier electronic act, and they play with some heavier rock bands. It all melds really well together, and I think people are super open to all the genres around here. It's a cool show to see.
That's cool. It's like a melting pot of all these different things, because I think that's like, if you're in a scene like that, it kind of reminds me of like CBGBs. But if you think about like the Talking Heads and Patti Smith and the Ramones, it's like you got like Blondie. They're all in that same scene, but they were all different, right? Like how could, and I think that seems like the way Nashville seems to be like that now as a community.
Well, not to mention a lot of the musicians here can play any genre. They're all interested. Right. They may play for their day job. They're playing as a cover backing person, sideman, but what they're into, what they're listening to is all over the place, and everyone's taste is kind of more eclectic than you'd suspect, is what I've found.
That's awesome. So, have you ever thought of collaborating with people outside of your genre?
Yes.
We did an EP with a bunch of guest people.
Yeah, we did a covers EP actually.
That's cool.
With, I guess one was an electronic musician user, and then Ebu is more of a indie pop type of band.
Hi, Boo.
It's mispronounced often. Ebu. Yeah, and then my sister sang on it too, and she does a bunch of different genres. So yes, absolutely.
So when you guys do music videos, let's jump to that. Are you heavily involved in like film as well, or do you work with filmmakers and directors for that?
No, I mean, we do it all.
You do it yourself?
Yeah, there's been a very rare moment where we've had, a helping hand, but we don't hire film crews or anything like that. It's just kind of fun to have that creativity constraint of what can we do together
with just our phones,
with just us and a tripod,
Yeah.
Total do it yourself, because I think that's a cool vibe to actually have a band is like taking everything from soup to nuts. Like in terms of like you control your image, you control your directions, kind of like. And I was always like, impressed with like Prince. He's 17, did everything, right?
Yeah.
They told him he could have, if Maurice White produced him, he said no, I'll do it myself.
Yeah.
Like how many 17-year-olds would turn down Maurice White? He's a guaranteed like hit maker, and you're like, nope, I'm gonna do it myself.
Yeah, pass. That's so funny.
I think at this point too, I mean, we've both been in many bands, and we've just found that as a duo we work really well together. We have a lot of complementary skills, and so it's just streamlined our process a lot to just we just do everything, and it's fun, and we don't have to check with other people.
Yeah. The we're also roommates too, so we have a lot of. This is our home studio in the basement. So we, it's not like, oh, we have to book studio time or book a place and meet up somewhere. Schedules and lining up. It's just, hey, you want to go do something? We want to go film something in the basement.
So how did you guys meet? You said you were in different bands. So how did that come together? How did you guys find each other?
I was in a band called Tiger Rider in Seattle, and we were looking for a drummer. So found this guy at Guitar Center where we all worked. And yeah, you came along and just immediately, were the right fit for that band. And then eventually we started making electronic music together, just us two. So that's how that came to be.
That's cool. It's like everybody has a story on how they actually, come together as a group. But like you immediately, like, I guess the kind of vibe situation, you kind of knew it was going to work in terms of like where where the direction you wanted to go musically.
Well, I had been making just beats. I hate saying that for some reason. Just making beats on my computer, and I was gonna release something, and we had been in a band for a couple of years at this point, and I was like, hey, we take a listen to these, see what you think. And then Heather's immediately hearing melodies and coming up with stuff on top of it. So it was a little bit.
You're not going to make it on your own. Let me join.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Like, so when you guys write a song together, is it like collaborative from the start, or somebody come with an idea? Sometimes you come with an idea, or she comes with an idea. Like, is it just like, some songs get born different ways. So maybe it's not the same way for every song, but maybe you can kind of describe that process.
Yeah, it definitely different ways, but I would say for the most part, Patrick creates a beat, gets baked in his room and makes a couple beats, and then we listen to them, and we we choose what we like and what we're hearing melodies over, and then start writing collaboratively and change. Sometimes I'll write something first, or sometimes, we're jamming downstairs and it comes about that way.
Is there a favorite song that you guys have written together that you would say like this is like your signature Slender Dan song at this point?
I'm always most excited about the one that we're working on at the moment. That's how it has to be. Otherwise, I don't know.
I think I like Descent. It was off our last EP, Nothing Forever. I just love that one because I love the beat. I love all the sonic, things that you did to that. I love how you made my voice sound. I love the lyrics. It's kind of about,
It's like an anti-censorship thing.
Anti-censorship, like authoritarianism type of
Yeah, that's
song.
like, are those like your favorite? Because I know that you like to go into like authoritarianism, censorship, afterlife, psychedelics, but it's kind of like that's kind of like the alternative like universe. But like because you actually bring up the authoritarianism, that kind of puts you in a different category. Some bands are like, oh, they're psychedelic or they talk about this, but they don't get into the like MC5 level stuff, or
Yeah,
Rage Against the Machine level stuff. It's like, so it's like I wonder, like, so how far do you decide to go, or you don't really like whatever serves the song. If this song's going to be about something like authoritarianism or censorship, that's where it's going to go.
yeah. It's. I mean, it's. The ideas and inspiration have to come from somewhere, and that's just that's something we happen to care a lot about, and we talk a lot about when we're just hanging out. Is, oh, can you believe this happened? Oh, can you believe what's going on in the world and what we're seeing? It's a lot of it's a lot of our everyday
Yeah.
what we talk about. So it's gonna be the thing that inspires the music too. I don't know. It's not.
That's interesting because there's some people like they're musicians like, well, I want to stay away from that because they want to do what's not going to cause anybody to have any kind of opinion. But I've always felt like I grew up listening to Dylan and Neil Young, and at certain points they were into kind of protest movements, or they were making statements
Totally.
like for Dead in Ohio, or
Mhm.
Hurricane. They would make statements about what was going on at the current moment.
Mhm.
And it was kind of like, well, why not do that? And then other people were like, well, you're just supposed to make songs that make people happy and dance and sing. Is like, no, that's not exactly like if you have a voice and you're in tune with what's going on, why not talk about
Yeah.
what's going on?
I don't think it's our main mission, to convert anybody or anything like that, but it is important to us and we talk about it a lot. And so we find ourselves inadvertently writing about that
Yeah.
almost every song. So
It's a byproduct of yeah. We're just thinking about it a lot.
yeah,
It's the times, just like what the times you're in, kind of dictate where your head's
exactly.
at.
Well,
But
the band also it did just the timing of when it started was in Seattle at a point when we needed papers to leave the house. That's a real thing that happened in Seattle with the lockdowns and
yeah, so you had a
and
definite
all these
situation.
businesses shutting down, but Walmart was allowed to stay open, Target was allowed to stay open, and that was criminal, is in my opinion. So we it kind of is born out of the outrage of it all too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So that's being do it yourself. Does you feel like a certain satisfaction in that you're able to take your idea, and put it in the direction you want, rather than being molded in like some circles. Like if you go into like a hit factory, you have certain producers that say, "Well,
Yeah.
this is what you have to do." And as musicians, you have to make choices. Oh, do I want to be produced? Do I want to be engineered? Or do I want to kind of own that? And what makes you want to like own it?
We just don't have to run our topics by anybody or, you know, it's just more fun this way too. We kind of gave up our dream a while ago of like trying to make it or do something, like as every young musician thinks about,
This is
Yeah.
just for fun. This is a for
yeah,
fun
it
project for
became
us.
just what we want to make, and that's really cool to us.
Yeah, the independence and then just to having the ability to have a voice versus like, oh, I want to, be totally directed to making something that's super popular versus something that's kind of heart focused. Like it's like this is my heart project. Like this is something I feel about, right? Then I'm gonna put everything I have into it. But this is my vision. It's like your vision of what you want to do. I think some people kind of maybe push their vision down a little bit just to get the fame.
Yeah.
You know,
Now that being said, we would love to work with any famous producer or whatever, just for the learning aspect of it.
the
If
learning
anything,
aspect of it.
I mean,
yeah.
you know, if the more people who listen to this, the better. Like I'm down from an audience. It's not like we're adverse to an audience, a
Yeah.
large audience. But that's how you get good at anything, is working with people that are better than you. It's how we learn to talk. It's how we learn to play any game or any sport or anything. It's playing with better musicians is always going to be a learning experience. So working with a better producer would be excellent for
Totally.
we'll pick something out of that.
It's a learning experience as you work with different recording engineers and producers, and you get to work with, and he's going up on the chalkboard and saying, "Why not do this?"
Yeah.
Like why not go this way? And I always thought I saw some like documentary, and he was telling a studio musician to do different chord arrangements, and he said, "Well, that doesn't," studio musician looked at it, that doesn't work musically. It's like, no, do it anyway.
Yeah. That's great. What was that thing you got me? Was it my birthday or Christmas? What are those cards?
Oh, was that Brian Eno?
Yeah. What is that called?
I can't remember what it was called, but it's a deck of cards, and they have
it's all little suggestions, like why not take the smallest idea and make it the biggest, or it just
or really kind of abstract, makes a song more silver, or like random things like that to get you to think differently than you are.
Yeah, kind of out of the box thinking, like you were saying, like taking something and stretching it out, like take something and they can invert it, like in my modular we're using a 10-inverter and kind of warp something, turn it inside out, and then see, well, what happens if I do that? You're not supposed to do that. It's like, well, push it past what you're supposed to do and see what happens, and then you see if you can actually find some musicality in it.
Yeah. And sometimes the grass is greener, sometimes it isn't.
It's like white light, white heat. It's just like 20 minutes of sonic noise. It's like, well, some people might like that, but that doesn't work every night.
Yeah.
Right.
Revolution Number 9 is some people's favorite song by the Beatles. So it's
like taste, whether or not you want to see like Lou Reed going really wild with the Velvets, and doing something like white light, white heat for 20 minutes. Or do something that's more like, oh, that kind of like that song I can get into that. Waiting for My Man, I can get into that. But in terms of your new single, Field of Reeds, like that's coming out like on the 9th, which is like it already came out. So how is that going?
It's going good.
It's fun to have it out. I love that song. So I'm really excited to have it in the world.
This batch was kind of an experiment to be as catchy as we could be. It's less like about the message in these ones. I mean, we care about all aspects of it, but sometimes I feel like we will sacrifice catchiness for like really the idea or the musical trick or the thing that we want to incorporate production wise. But these ones I like all aspects of it. This song in particular is about it's all about the Egyptian Book of the Dead, and we were just sitting in my room reading through it, going like, oh, that's wild. Let's do we were just pulling different lines from it. A lot of it's like verbatim from the Egyptian Book of the Dead and some of the lyrics.
Yeah.
But yeah, it started off as an experiment for trying to write something as catchy as we could.
It's interesting how your songs can come from different. Like I was watching something where Cream was talking about Ulysses. He's like, oh yeah, I read this epic poem and they're gonna convert it. People talk about William Blake pulling like some poetry from a Victorian poet and using that. But it's kind of like whatever inspires you. It can be these like little things. It could be like dreams, and they come from like different inspirations. Do you guys have like any like I don't know? Some people like, oh, I'll go walk in the woods, or I'll wake up in the middle of the night and I'll have an idea. Is there any particular kind of things that you do to kind of be in the creative state, or you just let it come?
Patrick paces back and forth.
I'm a pacer. I was going to say, I have one. I have to walk or something. I have to be in motion. So many great things have been in motion. I also, Rhapsody in Blues, famously written on a train. So many songs written on trains, or in the car. For some reason, being in motion helps.
Yeah, yeah. I think driving, I get a lot of thoughts too. We like to put the songs on when we drive together and just think. Come up with melodies on the road. I always have my voice memos out.
Yeah, one phone's playing the songs. Yeah. One phone has the voice memos up.
Voice memo up. Yeah. That's like the new thing. Everybody's got their phone and they got the voice memo recorder on.
It's so convenient. We'll use those recordings sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes it ends up being like you could go and re-record it, but what you recorded is like catches that moment.
The magic.
Kind of like, yeah.
Or even I love the way that it compresses drums and stuff. It's so, recording a shaker or something into this. It's, I don't even know what the parameters that they're setting or what it is, but it does something magic to the two sounds. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like when you find out people are using like megaphones, it's like, oh yeah, because I like the way that sounds. Somehow using the phone, there's a certain quality to that sound in a voice memo, and you could actually use it, It's like field recordings. People, do field recordings and where they do something. It's like, oh, this isn't the best mic, but guess what? Like the way you did that vocal performance on that mic is better than on the better mic.
Yeah.
So we'll take the one with the not as good a mic because the way you did it.
Yeah. Yeah. The fidelity of something is almost like the least important part nowadays because it's, there's so many artists making low fidelity things sound cool, like the way Kanye or a Bon Iver will treat sonically. It's like, oh, that objectively sounds bad. That recording of that vocal doesn't sound good. It's choppy, it's glitchy, it's messed up on purpose, but there's something beautiful about it too.
It's like the character. It's like the happy accident or the kind of letting it be. It's like if you're a painter, like you can put that layer down and maybe you could repaint it, but like that's what it is. It's kind of point in time. That's what I love about like analog synths, because they don't have presets. There's a lot of times it's like I'll go and create some patterns like point in time.
Totally.
And if I don't save all my settings or take a picture of it, I'll lose it. I won't be able to get back to it. But if I record it, it's kind of like, well, it's on the recording and I've got it sonically, but physically I might not be able to bring that back.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's actually a cool thing to have.
Yeah. I mean, it's a difference between a band that, goes out and all the solos are rehearsed and they're playing them the same way every night versus a band that's soloing off the top of their head every night. And it's a new thing. It only happens that one night and it's gone. And,
Yeah. I mean, there's something about being like the Eagles and getting fined if you don't play Hotel California the same way every night. There's something good about that. It's like, okay, people get what they want. They want to hear Hotel California that way. Okay, fine. But there's something also about like Sun Ra or Miles Davis with Herbie Hancock going out and playing it different every night because, like, that's where their head's at. And they could do it the same, but they don't want to do it the same.
Yeah. The feat of creativity is part of it.
Yeah. It's just like the fact that, like, is there a bad note or is there an opportunity? Like, do you have an opportunity to evolve the song, or do you want to like keep the song in a box and it's always going to be the way you mastered it, right? Maybe some people want that. Some fans want that, but I know a lot of fans that don't want that. They when they go see a band, they want to see them live.
Yeah,
it doesn't mean they want it to sound like it was on the record.
Yeah. I think I'd fall into that category. I want to see a mistake. I want to know.
I
love seeing it.
I love watching a band communicate on stage, like the someone hits a bunk note or something like that. Everyone looks over at them, or like those little moments that happen where you're kind of in on it with them.
Yeah, looking at it.
Yeah. That's my favorite.
Yeah, I used to love watching Pete Townsend looking at Moon.
Yeah.
It kind of
not knowing what's gonna happen.
Like Moon's on his own trip. He's going to wherever he's going. It's like you better just stay in for the ride. That's just what it's gonna be.
Yes, strap in.
Yeah.
But in terms of do you guys have any kind of insight to, like, would you ever want to play live and figure out how to actually do a live show? Have you thought about it, or you just want to stay with videos and stay with like putting out singles and EPs? Because that's a model. You can stay in that world. You don't have to, kind of like the Beatles said, we're not touring anymore. We're going to do that.
Yeah, I mean, we go back and forth.
We've thought a lot about this.
Yeah.
We actually are sitting on a whole album of real instrument songs.
Yeah, I mean, the main thing about the way we've written so much, on synths and in the box is that we almost don't know how we would do it live without a lot more people, or heavy use of tracks or something like that.
We don't want it to look like karaoke, where
Yeah, you don't want to kind of go out there with a DJ, with the MPC and then kicking off samples.
Yeah,
because some people run it like that, but I don't know if you feel like that fits your aesthetic.
We could, next weekend mute the vocal and one of the drum elements, and us go out there and I hit a pad and she sings. But that's
I don't know if I'm that type of front person. A lot of people can really rock that, and I don't know. It's not super my style. I'd say that. So,
yeah.
So we're figuring
like
it
an
out.
Instrument here.
Yeah. Yeah. I've always, played primarily bass or keys or something, and so that's something we talk about a lot. But yeah, we have an album in the works or about to be out that's more live instruments.
The idea is to do that live, but we'd want to probably get musicians to play it with us or something.
Oh, so you bring in some people to be like temporary members of the band.
Yeah, and then it's because Heather's. We want the. I know what I like in a live show. You do too, and it's it depends on your attachment to the music and your associations and stuff. But when a band is just pinned to the mic the whole time, it's there's no movement, it's less dynamic on stage. So we want other people, so Heather can move around and or other people.
It's like the performance.
No,
You start thinking about the great performers, like Bowie, Freddie Mercury, like you want to be able to kind of move around. You mean Lady Gaga?
I'm gonna do it exactly like them.
Yeah,
I think. Yeah.
But no, just to kind of give that idea, like you have some freedom to do the show. Like there's some theater. The video don't have to be too theatrical, but I mean you just want to feel like you're not stuck like in a, like if I'm a keyboard player and I'm stuck behind my stack, I'm kind of stuck behind the stack. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And the dynamic things might have to be something else. I might have to figure out how am I going to get any kind of dynamicism if I'm stuck behind my big stack of keyboards.
Yeah, and people do it other ways too. There's people do projectors and light shows and
do that.
Other elements. But it's we wouldn't be playing venues where that's conducive. So it'd be up to plus we don't want everything to be in track. So it's having as many elements played live in front of you is always more exciting to us when we're watching a band. So
yeah, because being in the box, you've seen some big bands that are in the box.
Yeah.
And they're so locked into their backing tracks.
Yeah.
They don't have a lot of options. I mean, there's the guitar solos. Yeah, you can do a solo, but you're locked into like most of those basic tracks are locked in.
Yeah. Which can be super cool, but especially if they have dancers and light shows, and it's just I don't know that we have that budget at this point.
There's a lot of it's like a stage show. It becomes like an opera. I mean, it becomes like a show. It becomes like a Broadway show. It's more like you're practicing to that scene.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's actually the only goal of the band is so we get to the point where Heather can have backup dancers. And then she can die happy, and we can all.
I would die happy.
The backup dancers, yeah. And then
all she wants in life.
It's everybody's got their dream of how they want to present, their idea. Like you want to do light shows, like the Pink Floyd, Who light shows in the 70s.
Yeah,
they were all part of that whole thing. But it's today people have like there are a lot of bands that are in the box, or they'll have a DJ and maybe they have some leeway because they have a DJ, so they're not totally in the box. Yeah. The guy could actually cut it up and actually live DJ the actual tracks. So I've seen the kind of this hybrid in hip hop of hip hop bands having their DJ with a live band,
Yeah.
and then kind of
There's there's
evolving the
definitely
song.
different paths and stuff. I would say, I mean, half of it is that everything we just talked about, and half is just we just like making music and videos, and we just find ourselves doing that, and then we'll be like, oh, should we play live? And then we just start doing that again. You know, it's
we've gotten our hands involved in things that I think were a little too ambitious, and it burnt us out a little too. So we're trying to do like little manageable projects. Like for these batch of songs, we decided not to do any music videos. We decided to just make little 1-minute videos. We ended up making 2 of them per song because we can't help but overdo it. We gotta. But the that was so much more manageable, and it was fun the whole time. Versus sometimes we're so burnt out after these video shoots.
A lot of effort. If you put in like the 3-minute, 4-minute video,
it's a lot.
That's a lot of
different
work.
Scenes, different
lighting,
outfits, all of it. It's
the whole thing, and the money we would spend on stuff like that. It's props and things, outfits.
Also with TikTok and social media, like the audience like attention span like 15 second, 30 second, 45 second.
Yeah.
So if you make the shorter things, they actually might be more bang for the buck.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of like you've only got that kind of window nowadays. Nobody wants to listen to the Hotel California.
Yeah.
They just want to get the 30 seconds, like, to get it on the TikTok and get it on the reel. So it's like, do you have a strategy for like that? It's like, it sounds like what you've done kind of fits the reels.
I think it fits it. I mean, even when we had full-length music videos before, I would take 10-second, just one little scene from it and just post that to social media. So it's essentially that, just minus the 4.5-minute music video, so it just works really well.
Yeah.
There's no cuts in them. There's no, and it's so it's easy. You can take any section of the video and line it up with any section of the song and make more. We'll probably get more. I hate the word, but content out of what we did this time.
Yeah.
And it was because it started off because we were lazy.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it was super strategy driven originally, but it's a good side effect of it.
Yeah. Now you found like, well, I can mine this, I can use it. Like as a podcaster, we use like our AI tools to like mine our podcast.
Find little clips,
and then it will go and find like the optimum clips, and then we push that. And so like we push out the whole episode, but we also push out the clips, and the clips actually get more attention.
Sure.
Oh yeah. Well, just the attention spans of people's, like that's a big commitment to ask someone to watch an hour of something. Or we found this even with sending even friends and family an album of ours, and some people won't listen to the whole thing, and it's but one song is an easy ask. A clip from a podcast is an easy watch versus
people have a hard time committing. I think there's too much overload. Like I grew up in the 70s, with 4 TV channels, no cable, just the radio, my vinyl, and my 8-track, maybe.
If someone's gonna send me something to watch and it's long on my phone, they're competing with YouTube, which is one app over, and Instagram and TikTok, and they're competing with all those things because it's just a swipe of the thumb and you're on to something that's perfectly curated for you. It is a tough market out there for attention.
Also, like compared, like as a kid, to listen to an album, it was on the 8-track, and most of the time it was on vinyl, and I usually wasn't going to skip. So if I listened to Stevie Wonder, like songs in the key of life, I actually listened to the whole thing.
Yeah,
and that was a big album, and I was kind of into this idea of like, and so I grew up liking albums. I'm kind of from the album era.
Yeah.
And I noticed a lot of people are in the playlist era. As an artist, what do you feel about that? When you want to put out an EP or an album, and this is like the playlist age, and really like only 1 or 2 of your songs might really be, digested by the audience.
Yeah. I think it's good and bad. I mean, it's good because it's less pressure, right? You can just do, like we were talking about, just a little scene of something, or just put a single out, and that's fine. But yeah, we we do kind of ignore it too. We
Everything we've done so far is all the songs are connected. So we have one full length album. We have
Gestalt, our full length album, is
3 EPs.
19 songs, and there's 6 interludes that are all interwoven, and everything is connected.
It feels like one long song the whole way through, and
So
Yeah.
kind of like a
EPs
concept,
are that way too,
concept kind of structure.
which makes them not conducive for playlists because all of a sudden a song comes on and it's just a noise. But if you heard it coming out of the previous track, it would make
Sounds
sense.
Yeah, like the Sgt. Pepper thing when you
Yeah,
divide
yeah.
them up. It's like, oh, that doesn't really go together unless you play the other song. And the radio used to actually play
Yeah.
some of the Beatles songs, like two of them back to back because they were so connected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of Floyd too.
Yeah, I like that.
And yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
a label might tell us you have to make a single version of this, so you have to, make it more playlistable. But we wanted to do that long album, so we did.
But your new song is more like not in that kind of zone.
No, it's just part of a 3-song EP, and then every song is,
Well, it is. The first two can kind of connect.
they flow.
We've been working on having them flow, but also sounding good individually. 'Cause
Yeah.
You have to, it's kind of got to be both.
It's kind of the dance.
Yes.
Mhm.
Like if you're a progressive rock and you're trying to do that kind of Yes album kind of Pink Floyd thing, like, well, I want to have a single, but I want them to connect. So
Yeah.
you find a way to kind of have the little spot where, like, yeah, I can push that out as a single, but if you go back to the album, it's like, oh, it keeps on going.
Yeah. It's great.
But yeah, it's cool to see that you guys are still doing that because like a lot of bands, I've noticed in hip hop there are like a lot of hip hop albums that are concept albums.
Yeah.
But it seemed like in the rock genre, or like what was known as rock or like popular type music, that kind of went away. It was there, and I grew up with like Meatloaf and Pink Floyd and Styx, and you had all these bands that were still doing that. And now it was like, oh, I guess they kind of like let it go.
Yeah, the big one for me growing up, the concept album band was Coheed and Cambria. They have every one of their albums, and they have many albums now, is all one long story. So that was kind of impressive. They were like the concept album band.
Oh, like Rush. Yeah, like Rush was like that.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know that about Rush. They multiple albums all connect.
Well, at the beginning they had a lot of ideas that were kind of going that way, but like when they got more popular, it's less so. But they were more of a concept kind of. They were kind of like a Canadian Yes at the beginning.
Yeah.
I think people are still doing this. I just think that there's so much music being made and being put out, and then the algorithm is favoring
the other type.
Yeah, but I have plenty of friends that are making concept albums or connected albums and things like that. So it's still happening. There's just so much out there.
Yeah, that's the thing. It was like there's so much to digest that you can find what you want. Kind of like the law of attraction. If you put it there, you like, and people find it. There's like, oh, they find their niche. They find the thing they're into. It's like, oh, this band's still doing that. There are people that are still doing the power pop, or they're doing the punk music, or they're doing this kind of whatever you're into. There's just still a goth band. There's still a band that channels The Cure, or channels Duran Duran, or channels, something I liked about REM on IRS. As somebody's still doing that, you can find them.
Yeah. And there's that's what I was saying. It's even an artist's like most disliked songs are someone's favorite song. It's one man's trash is another man's treasure kind of a thing too. So it's like this, our least favorite song is the fact that it could be someone's favorite song is like really cool to me.
Oh, are you ever surprised by the fans like songs that they like versus the song that you like? Like this is my favorite song for the whole band, and like then your fans actually like the song that maybe you don't like at all.
It's not that we don't like the song Unlucky Eyes, but we almost cut it.
That was
and that's the one that has taken off the most.
It's the most listened
by a landslide. And I do like the song. It's just I didn't see that coming.
You didn't see it? That's always weird that like sometimes we can't see as artists
Yeah.
what the fans hear or see. You know, they find something and you're like, why they like that one?
Well, we have an idea of which ones we think are the catchiest, or which ones that we think are the coolest concept, or the best production, and it's almost never the ones that we think, which is funny.
Yeah.
So our favorites are different than what like Spotify's top songs
Yeah.
will reflect.
Yeah, maybe
you know?
because you're too close to it, like an author. Like anytime you're an artist, you're too close to it. Like you get your idea of
Mhm.
what is what it is, you know, because it's your baby. You're around it.
Mhm.
You know, the people they see something, maybe you kind of fluff over because you're like, oh, well, I know that I didn't really digest what the value is, but then somehow it connects with the people.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what we think the song is about could be something different for someone else too. So it's
Mhm.
that's what's kind of cool about it. We talk about if something is too specific, or if it's too vague, or we want something to be. So we experiment with like surrealistic lyrics sometimes, and
Mhm.
um, I love the idea of someone attaching their own whatever's happening in their life or their lived experience, attaching that to a line that we are thinking about something else with it. It's
So if somebody's going to ask you like an elevator pitch, is like, how do you describe the Slender Dan sound? What would you say to like that person that asked you, like, tell me how you describe your sound?
what was the thing? Tresillos and what was it?
Tresillos and flagle cadences.
Yes, it's the nerdy thing. But
I mean, I think we make pop music, but a lot of people say some of our stuff is really weird, So we have landed on this term of avant-garde pop,
Mhm.
is I think how we would best describe it.
Yeah.
Dark pop, I guess, would be another word I would use to describe it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
That's
it's a for
usually
fun
the place.
project.
That's usually the place as a kid where I was always going. I was always going toward, the bands that were doing that. Just
Yeah.
because I kind of wanted to be, I don't know. I'm not that I wanted to be an outsider, but I just didn't want to listen to what everybody else was listening to.
Yeah, yeah. It's weird how like socially other people's what am I looking for?
Opinions or
Perceptions.
influence.
Yeah, will play a part in what if I'm listening to something that I think is really cool, and I pull up next to a car and they have the windows open, I'll keep it loud. But if I pull, if it's something that I'm like checking out, I'm not sure if I like it or not yet, then I'll turn it down. It's very, we're social animals.
Yeah.
It is interesting how that'll influence your writing and creativity and stuff too.
I have a hard time listening to our stuff and not turning it down if somebody drives up because I'm like, they can't know I'm listening to myself.
So, your website, is that how people can get to your everything about you?
Yeah, every link is on there on gestaltproductions.com. Or on Spotify, just Slender Dan. But yeah, the hub would be a website.
That's awesome. Well, I do encourage people to check you guys out, and I like your sound. I like the way, like, I've always gravitated toward alternative kind of, music that was like, you know, on the college radio, which I don't know how deep the college radio is anymore because I'm not in the scene anymore. But that's like the mindset that I came from, and that's why I always like to talk to people who are in that zone. Which I'm glad that I talked to you guys tonight because I find it very encouraging that people are still taking the path that you guys are taking, which I think is a cool place to go. I think I like to hear more people doing this, and I'm always looking for more people to talk to. So if you have any bands in your scene that you think would want to talk to me, maybe send them my way.
For sure, yeah, definitely.
This was a great chat.
Yeah,
Thank
that
you
was
so
fun.
much for having
This was
us.
super fun. Yeah,
We'll definitely send people your way.
Yeah, I love talking about scenes, and you guys are in a cool scene. So get some more music back on the podcast. Not that I don't like talking to therapists and life coaches, but I like talking to musicians.
yeah, your wheelhouse. That's awesome.
thank you for being on the show, and everybody go and check out Slender Dan. They're on all the streaming services, right? You're on all the major ones.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Everybody can check you out and just give it a listen. That's the nothing, not just try it out, check it out, because everybody needs to hear something new. You've probably been listening to the same thing on regular radio. If you listen to that, try something different. It's new flavor of the week. Slender Dan.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.